I'm 75 years old, and I spent most of my life believing that feelings were something you got to later, after the work was done, after the bills were paid, after everyone else was taken care of. I thought that's what it meant to be responsible. I didn't know I was slowly disappearing. When I was younger, maybe in my late 20s, I worked in accounting for a manufacturing company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. I showed up every day, did my job, came home tired. My wife, Janet, would ask me how I was doing. Not how work went, how I was doing. I'd say, fine. I'd say it was a long day. I'd say I just needed to sit down for a bit. She'd nod. She'd let it go. I thought that was enough. I didn't think about what I was actually feeling because I didn't think it mattered. You don't get paid to feel things. You get paid to show up and do the work. That's what my father taught me. That's what everyone around me seemed to understand. So I kept going. Years passed like that. I'd come home, eat dinner, watch some television, go to bed. If something bothered me at work, I didn't talk about it. If I felt anxious or frustrated or sad, I didn't stop to look at it. I just kept moving. Janet would try. She'd ask if I wanted to take a weekend trip, or if I wanted to talk about something she'd noticed. She said I seemed distant sometimes. She said she missed me, even though I was right there. I didn't understand what she meant. I was there. I was sitting in the same room. I was doing everything I was supposed to do, but I wasn't really there, not in the way that mattered. I thought feelings were a distraction. I thought if I let myself feel too much, I'd fall apart. I had a family to take care of, responsibilities. I didn't have the luxury of sitting around thinking about my emotions like some people did. So I pushed them down, every single one. And I got very good at it. When my mother died, I took 2 days off work. I went to the funeral. I stood there and shook hands and accepted condolences. I didn't cry. I didn't talk about it. I went back to work on Monday and acted like nothing had changed. Janet asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. I wasn't fine, but I didn't know how to say that. I didn't even know how to feel it. When my son graduated high school, I was there. I sat in the bleachers and watched him walk across the stage. I clapped. I smiled for the pictures. But I felt nothing. Not pride, not joy, not anything. I remember standing there thinking something was wrong with me, but I didn't say it out loud. I didn't tell anyone. I just assumed it would pass. It didn't pass. It got worse. By the time I was in my 50s, I'd spent so many years ignoring what I felt that I didn't know how to feel anymore. Everything was numb, flat. I went through the motions of living, but I wasn't actually living. Janet stopped asking how I was doing. I think she gave up. We still lived together, we still had dinner together, but there was this space between us that I couldn't cross, and I didn't know how it got there. I thought it was just what happened when you'd been married a long time. I thought everyone felt this way, but they don't. I know that now. When Janet got sick, it happened fast. One day she was fine. A few months later, she was in the hospital. The doctors said it was stage 4. They said there wasn't much they could do. I sat beside her bed every day. I held her hand. I watched her sleep. And I felt everything I'd been avoiding for 50 years hit me all at once. I felt the grief I never let myself feel when my mother died. I felt the fear I'd pushed down every time something went wrong. I felt the loneliness I'd been carrying for decades, pretending it wasn't there. And I felt how much I loved her. I'd always loved her, but I'd never let myself feel it fully. I'd never let myself be vulnerable enough to say it the way it deserved to be said. I tried to tell her. I tried to say all the things I should have said years ago. But I don't know if she heard me. She died 3 weeks later, and I was alone. Not just because she was gone, but because I'd spent my whole life building walls around myself, and now there was no one left on the other side. I didn't know how to be with people anymore. I didn't know how to talk about what I felt because I'd never practiced it. I'd never let anyone in. My son calls once a month. We talk for maybe 10 minutes. He asks if I need anything. I say no. We say goodbye. We're strangers. Not because he's a bad son, but because I was never really present. I was always there, but I was never actually with him. He learned not to expect anything from me a long time ago. I can't undo that. I wish I could, but I can't. People don't wait forever. They stop reaching out eventually. They stop asking if you're okay. They stop hoping you'll let them in. And then one day, you're 75 years old, and you realize you've been alone for most of your life. Not because no one cared, but because you never let them close enough to matter. That's the cost of ignoring your feelings. Not in some abstract, someday kind of way, but in real, specific, permanent ways. You lose people. You lose time. You lose yourself. And you don't even notice it happening until it's too late to fix. I know some people think emotions are weak, or indulgent, or something you deal with if you have time, but they're not. They're the only thing that makes any of this real. The job I spent 40 years doing doesn't matter now. The money I saved doesn't comfort me. The image I tried to maintain means nothing. What matters are the people I loved and never told. The moments I was too numb to feel. The life I could have lived if I'd just been brave enough to let myself be human. I don't have much time left. I know that. I'm not scared of dying. I'm scared of how much of my life I've already wasted pretending I didn't need to feel anything. If you're reading this and you recognize yourself in any of what I've said, please don't wait. Don't wait until someone's gone to tell them you love them. Don't wait until it's too late to say what you actually feel. Don't assume there's more time. There isn't. I thought I was being strong by keeping everything inside, but I wasn't strong. I was just afraid. And that fear cost me everything that mattered. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to be 75 years old, sitting alone, wishing you'd done it differently. You still have time. I don't.